Watch closely, because the show just told you a lie by omission. On a field at the edge of the Reach, Lord Ormund Hightower, 15,000 men at his back, looks up at 3 dragons and does the sensible thing. He bends the knee. He surrenders his ancestral Valyrian steel sword. And then he stands, and he lives, and he rides away to fight another day. The war, it seems, is won. But in George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, Lord Ormund Hightower does not kneel, and he does not live. He dies at the First Battle of Tumbleton, cut down not by a dragon, but by a suicidal charge of northern winter wolves led by a grim old warrior they called Roddy the Ruin. And the town of Tumbleton does not surrender to be occupied. It burns. Not by the enemy, by the treachery of the 2 dragon riders the Queen herself sent to defend it. The maesters would call it the treasons of Tumbleton, one of the cruelest sacks in the history of the 7 kingdoms. The show has taken a corpse and a catastrophe, and quietly resurrected the one and postponed the other. There is a prince here who is not a prince, a frightened boy with his hair bleached pale, passed off as royalty, a hostage worth nothing. The book never had him. And the title of this episode, taken word for word from the history itself, is Rhaenyra Triumphant. Hold on to that word, triumphant, because it is the cruelest joke this chronicle ever plays. The queen who wins the city tonight will lose the entire realm in half a year. History will not remember her as the conqueror who took King's Landing. It will remember her as the half-year queen. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. But tonight, as we have all season, we turn to the screen. This is House of the Dragon, Season 3, Episode 3, Rhaenyra Triumphant, written by Sara Hess, directed by Clare Kilner. And it is unlike anything the series has attempted before. A near single point of view hour, locked almost entirely to one woman, Rhaenyra, as she tries to rule the city she has just conquered. There are no battles in the middle of this episode. There is only a queen, an empty treasury, a hungry city, a cold high septon, a fracturing council, and the slow, dawning horror of what it actually costs to sit the Iron Throne. The war has shrunk to 2 scenes at either end, a surrender at the start and a reckoning at the close. And everything between them is politics and pride and rot. So here is what we will do, as we do every week. We are going to walk this hour scene by scene. For every beat the show gives us, we will tell you the true history beneath it. The real Tumbleton, the real fate of Ormund Hightower, the real reason this queen falls, drawn from Fire and Blood, and Fire and Blood alone. We will mark every change the writers made and ask why they made it. We will dig out the buried mysteries this episode plants. Hugh Hammer's crown, the prophecy that echoes down the centuries, the dragon that is reported dead but is not. We will hunt the Easter eggs. And at the end, we will give you our honest verdict on whether this acclaimed, strange, quiet hour earns its triumphant name. Full spoilers start now. We open not in the throne room, but on a field at first light, and on a site meant to end a war without a battle. Prince Daemon Targaryen sits astride Caraxes, the bloodworm, and to either side of him ride 2 more dragons, the 3 of them together the largest that the Queen's cause can put into the sky. Beneath them waits Lord Ormund Hightower and near 15,000 men of the Reach, and Daemon offers them a simple choice: bend the knee or burn. Daemon does not shout. He simply tells them the truth as he sees it. The war is ended, he says. Their allies have scattered. Their nephews have fled. And there is a new queen who sits her father's throne. And to sharpen the point, he names a warning the Greens already know. That Sir Otto Hightower, the Old Hand, the very uncle of the Lord kneeling before him, was put to death in King's Landing. He even threatens the Hightower itself to make one of his own base-born dragon riders the Lord of Oldtown. Ormund Hightower looks up at the dragons, and he yields. In the interest of peace, he says, he will submit. And then he does the thing a Hightower is never supposed to do. He surrenders his ancestral Valyrian steel, the sword Vigilance, laying the blade of his house at the feet of a Targaryen prince. But surrender is not the only thing Daemon demands. He wants a hostage. Prince Daeron Targaryen, the youngest son of the old king, and his dragon, the she-dragon Tessarion. And here the episode springs its trap. Ormund brings forth a boy with freshly bleached hair, a low-born child dressed as a prince, forbidden to speak, coerced into silence by a threat against his own mother. This is not Daeron. The real prince and his blue dragon, Ormund, keeps hidden. And Daemon, a dragon rider of decades, a man who has fought and killed in the skies, never notices. He takes his false prince, and he rides for King's Landing believing the war is won. Now, we will speak plainly about the seam in this. A dragon is bonded to its rider, body and soul. If Daemon truly believed he had captured Prince Daeron, the sky above that camp should have told him otherwise, because a dragon does not sit quiet while its rider is taken in chains. Tessarion never reacts, and no one asks why. It is the dragon-shaped hole in this plot. And we can forgive it, because the trick is a good one, and the payoff is coming. Hold that thought. Because to understand how far the show has strayed here, you have to know that in the true history, none of this happens at all. There is no surrender on that field. There is no Decoy. There is no kneeling Ormund Hightower. In Fire and Blood, Ormund Hightower's campaign is not a slow crawl to a humbling on the Rose Road. It is a war of victories, and its turning point is a battle the show cuts entirely. At the Battle of the Honeywine, Ormund's host is caught and collapsing, trapped against the river and all but broken. And then, out of the clouds, drops a prince on a dragon. Young Daeron Targaryen and Tessarion, the one the singers would call the Blue Queen, fall upon the attackers and break them. Ormund's army is saved. And on that field, in gratitude, the Lord knights the boy with his own Valyrian sword and gives him the name he will carry into legend. Daeron the Daring. That is where the prince earns his epithet. Not as a hostage. Not as a bleached-haired boy kept silent in a tent. As a rider who came down from the sky to save an army. The show takes all of that away and hands him instead a stranger's face. After the Honeywine, Ormund marches north, through Long Table, through Bitterbridge, toward a King's Landing that has already fallen to Rhaenyra. And the last town standing in his path, the seat of House Footley, is a place called Tumbleton. And it is here that the true history and the show part ways forever. Because Rhaenyra had thought of Tumbleton too, she sent 2 of her own dragon riders to defend it. 2 base-born men raised up in the war. Sir Hugh Hammer, who rode the great bronze dragon Vermithor, once the mount of King Jaehaerys I, and the largest living dragon in the world, save only Vhagar, and Sir Ulf White, who rode Silverwing, the dragon of good Queen Alysanne. 2 dragons sent to hold the town. Remember that. They were sent to protect it. The First Battle of Tumbleton begins, and it is a bloodbath. And in the thick of it, an old northern lord named Roderick Dustin, Roddy the Ruin, they called him, leads his winter wolves in a suicidal charge out a side gate, hopelessly outnumbered, driving straight for the enemy commanders. And he reaches them. Before he falls of his wounds, Roddy the Ruin cuts down Lord Ormund Hightower and his cousin, Sir Brynden Hightower. Both. Do you understand what that means? In the book, Ormund Hightower dies here, on this field. He never surrenders. He never kneels to Daemon. He never becomes anyone's antagonist because he is a corpse in the mud at Tumbleton. The show has taken a dead man and resurrected him into the villain of its season. For one heartbeat, the defenders think they have won. The Hightower commanders are dead. The day is theirs. And in that heartbeat, Hugh Hammer and Ulf White turn their dragons on the town they came to save. This is the treachery the Meisters would name the treasons of Tumbleton. Vermithor and Silverwing rain fire on their own side, and Tumbleton burns. Thousands die in the flames, or in the crush of the panic as they flee. Meister Munchen would set it down in one cold line. It was the field of fire writ small. That is the truth the show has buried under a hostage siege. Not a town held for leverage, but a town betrayed and burned by Rhaenyra's own dragons. And that decoy prince, kept alive in the dark? Hold on to him. Because what the show is quietly setting up, the true history is about to pay in full. While Daemon rides home with his false prince, the true drama of this hour is already unfolding behind the walls of King's Landing. She had the city. That was the strange, brittle truth at the heart of this hour. Rhaenyra Targaryen sat her father's capital, her rivals scattered, her enemies' banners coming down from the walls, and by every measure of the war, she had won. And it is precisely here, at the summit, that the show begins to show us the ground giving way beneath her feet. The book gives this queen a title that the Meisters would repeat for centuries with something between pity and scorn. They called her the half-year queen. She would hold King's Landing barely 6 months. And to understand why, you need only follow the money. In the show, the reckoning comes fast. Rhaenyra learns that the treasury is all but empty, that the vaults she fought to claim hold perhaps a fortnight of coin, and that the Greens have quietly drained the realm's gold and sent it west toward Casterly Rock. This is not invention. This is the book's own diagnosis, and it is the single most faithful thing the series has ever done with her downfall. In Fire and Blood, the Greens ship 3/4 of the crown's gold away and spend the rest before the city ever falls. Rhaenyra inherits a throne and an empty vault in the same breath. Everything that follows, every desperate measure, every misstep the show is about to stage, flows from that hollow strongbox. Her ruin is not written in the stars. It is written in a ledger. At the small council, the crises multiply. There are food shortages in the city, trade routes cut, raiders harrying shipping in the wake of the gullet. Daemon, restless as ever, floats the notion of demanding tribute from the great houses to fill the coffers. And here, the show plants a thread that the book will pay in blood. In Fire and Blood, this same pressure drives Rhaenyra's master of coin, Bartimos Celtigar, to levy taxes that climb by the day, until the small folk who once cheered her come to loathe her and give her a name that will become a curse in the streets of King's Landing. The show has not spoken that name yet, but it is showing you the machine that manufactures it. A queen with a city to feed, a war to fund, and nothing in the vault to do it with. Then there is Baela, sent aloft to hunt for Aemond and his monstrous Vagar, with a reward dangled that any lord would kill for. The great cursed castle of Harrenhal itself, to whoever brings the one-eyed prince to heel. What she finds instead is the still, golden shape of Sunfire, seemingly rotting on the stones, and no living dragon anywhere near. Now, mark this carefully, because it is one of the episode's quiet deceptions. In the book, Sunfire is not dead. He is grievously wounded, yes, broken and half-crippled, but alive and hidden. And concealed close beside him is the burned, broken body of a living king, Aegon II, smuggled away, waiting. So, when the instinct stirs that where the golden dragon lies, the golden king cannot be far. The book says that instinct is exactly right. Sunfire does not die here. He lingers and heals enough to kill again, and does not perish until the 9th day of the 12th moon of the year 130 after the conquest, far away at Dragonstone, after slaying the she-dragon Moondancer. The show shows you a corpse. The history tells you it is a trap. Back in the Red Keep, the queen presses the silent captive she believes to be Prince Daeron. Demon, hard and practical, urges her toward the simplest answer: put the boy to death. But Rhaenyra hesitates. He is only a boy, less guilty than his brothers, and she orders him confined rather than killed. The show wrings dramatic irony from every second of it, because we, the audience, suspect what she does not yet know. This is no prince at all, and the whole hostage, the bleached hair, the demanded surrender, is a fabrication with no root in the history. In Fire and Blood, there is no captive Daeron in King's Landing, no decoy, no bargain, but the mercy the show gives Rhaenyra here, that flicker of restraint, is worth holding on to, because the true history will spend the rest of her reign burning it out of her. Then comes Alicent, and a proposal shrewder than it first appears. Declare Aegon II dead, she counsels, and the problem of the missing king dissolves. A dead rival cannot rally an army. Rhaenyra sees the sense in it, and Alicent asks one thing in return: a daughter's small mercy, that the remains of her father, Otto Hightower, be sent home to Old Town. It is granted, but the plan to bury a living king with a lie will run straight into a wall of faith. The High Septon refuses to anoint her. He will not set the holy oils upon her brow without proof that Aegon II is truly dead, and he calls her bluff plainly. There is no body, no king laid out and tended by the Silent Sisters, which tells the whole realm that Aegon yet lives. And then he turns his contempt on the very source of her power. Dragons, he says, are a profane magic, born of darkness and pride and lust. They destroy, but they do not create. Here again, the show tracks the history closely. In Fire and Blood, Rhaenyra's coronation is a cold, grudging, unsanctified thing. A queen crowned without the full blessing of the faith in a city that never truly warms to her. A crown of gold means little when the man who should hallow it looks at you and sees a sinner astride a demon. And last, the wound that will not close. Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake, comes to her in private and speaks a truth he has guarded for years, that Aelin and Adam of Hull are his own blood, and he asks her to legitimize them as Velaryons, to name Alan heir to Driftmark. Rhaenyra defers and refuses, fearing that to raise up bastards now would only invite the whole realm to whisper again about the parentage of her own sons. And here is where the show quietly rewrites the Queen's character, so I want to be precise. In Fire and Blood, Corlys makes this very petition, and Rhaenyra grants it. Adam becomes a Velaryon, becomes heir to Driftmark. The show keeps the sea snake as the man who asks, and flips only her answer, from yes to no, so that her pride can begin to curdle on schedule. And note this too, the history itself is not so certain about the blood. Most of the maesters, and the mother Marilda of Hull herself, hold that the boy's father was Laenor Velaryon. Only the fool mushroom claims it was old Corlys. What the show gives us as a settled confession, the book leaves a genuine mystery. But the shape of what the refusal costs her is real, and it is coming, and it will take the sea snake and his fleet with it. The episode brings us next into the petitioner's court, and it is here that the hour quietly names its true subject. The war is supposedly won. And yet, the queen who sits the Iron Throne must now listen to the small and the hungry. A farmer complains that dragons have eaten his sheep. A hunter has been pressed into service, and his family left to starve. Merchants have hoarded grain behind locked doors, while the city goes without. And through it all, a woman steps forward and reminds the queen of the thing she once promised to be. A champion of the people, the ruler who would be loved where others were only feared. It is a gentle line, and a devastating one, because we can already feel how far the throne has carried her from it. Then comes the knighting of the Dragonseeds, and to understand who kneels here, we have to leave the screen and return to the book. In the true history, when Rhaenyra's cause was starved for dragon riders, her people did a desperate and unprecedented thing. They gathered the bastards and the baseborn of Dragonstone, anyone who carried even a rumor of the blood of the dragon, and they set them loose upon the unclaimed dragons of the island. The maesters call it the sowing of the seeds. Many who dared were consumed by dragonfire, but a handful lived, and they rose from the ash as dragon riders, and history remembers them as the Dragonseeds. Two of them matter above all others. The larger of the pair the show calls Hugh Hammer. In the book, a blacksmith's baseborn son, a giant of a man. He claimed Vermithor, the great bronze beast that once bore King Jaehaerys I himself, the second largest living dragon in all the world after ancient Vhagar. And here a small note for the readers among you. The book gives Hugh no silver hair at all. Fire and Blood describes only a dark-haired baseborn giant. The pale Targaryen coloring the show gives him is its own styling, a visual shorthand to bind him to the blood of the dragon. The second man the show calls Ulf the White. In the book, a drunkard and a boaster who claimed Silverwing, the dragon of good Queen Alysanne. His pale hair, at least, is canon. The show gives these two men a wonderful, telling moment. Ulf, hungry for more than a knighthood, asks to be granted the Targaryen name itself, and the queen denies him. He must content himself with Ulf the White. Hugh takes the name Hugh Hammer, and in the same breath she styles the third dragon seed present, young Adam, only Adam of Hull, pointedly not Velaryon, a public snub that follows straight from her refusal to legitimize Corlys's heirs. She is denying names to the very men whose loyalty she cannot afford to lose. The book readers among you already feel the ground shifting, because in the true history, it is exactly this hunger. Proud, base-born men who tasted power on Dragonback and wanted more than they were given. That will turn two of these dragon seeds into the greatest traitors of the entire war. For that is Hugh Hammer's hunger, and the book lets us see it plainly. He is a man who tasted power on Dragonback and decided a lordship was too small a thing. His soldiers whispered a prophecy among themselves that when the hammer should fall upon the dragon, a new king would arise. And Hugh took it for himself. He would set a crown of black iron upon his own brow and ask the question that echoes down the years: why be a lord when you can be a king? The show plants the seed of this treachery quietly. Hugh mentions, almost in passing, that his wife has already gone ahead to Tumbleton. A small line. Remember it. It is the finale's fuse, lit early and left to burn. And here is the payoff the true history hands us, richer than any invented twist. That prophecy, the hammer falling upon the dragon to raise a new king, was never truly meant for Hugh Hammer. His iron crown lasted only days, but turn the page of history forward roughly 150 years to the Trident, where a warrior lord named Robert Baratheon meets the last dragon prince of the old line in the water and cleaves him down with a warhammer. The hammer falls upon the dragon. A new king rises. Robert takes the Iron Throne, and a dynasty ends. Hugh Hammer was history's false first draft. Robert was its answer. It is not, we should be clear, a prophecy anyone in the book intended. It is dramatic irony, the kind that makes readers set the book down and simply sit for a moment. Which brings us to the episode's most seductive scene, and its most important footnote. Daemon comes to Rhaenyra with a vision. 6 dragons, a power beyond imagining. The whole world laid open before them. We are gods, he tells her, and he invokes prophecy in the High Valyrian tongue. She refuses him, remembering Viserys' warning about the ruin of old Valyria, and packs him off to the Vale to squeeze coin and pledges from Lady Jane Arryn, with the season's sharpest parting laugh line ringing after him. You still have to kill Daeron. Now, here is the footnote every book reader should hold on to. This grand prophetic engine, the song of ice and fire, the dream of a promised prince, is the show's own addition. Fire and blood does not contain it, and we must be precise. The book does not contradict it, and it does not disprove it. The book is simply silent. The dance, on the page, is a naked and bloody war of succession, with no destiny hovering over it. The prophecy is a thread the screen has woven in. A beautiful one, but the show's, not Gildane's. And then, the Rat Banquet, the hour's most memorable image. The queen seats the city's hoarders and grasping merchants at her table and serves them the fare of the starving. Roasted rats, the food her people have been reduced to, while she announces that her gold cloaks will seize their hidden stores and share them out. No one eats. It is a striking invention. There is no such feast in Fire and Blood. And yet, it dramatizes something the book insists upon absolutely. A queen strangled by an empty treasury and a hungry city. And notice the deliberate visual rhyme the show is building. Rhaenyra staged as a proto-Daenerys, another Targaryen queen who will win a city she cannot hold, descending not by fate, but by degrees. The show is telling us, in the language of composition, exactly where this road ends. From here, the hour tightens toward its reckoning, and one by one, the illusions Rhaenyra has been holding together come apart. The show gives us, first, a coronation without a crown. The High Septon has refused to anoint her. No sacred oil, no blessing of the seven. And so Rhaenyra answers the faith with bread. The grain her gold cloaks have seized from the hoarders' storehouses, she now returns to the starving, with her own hands from a height where all the city can see her. Her mistress of whisperers, Mysaria, reads the moment for exactly what it is. "Let the Septon deny you," she says. "This will be your anointing." It is a shrewd, almost holy image, a queen fed by the love of the small folk when the church has turned its back. And for a single breath, it works. Then the man who made her queen breaks her in the open. Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake, the richest lord in Westeros, the fleet upon which her whole cause floats, has asked one thing of her: to legitimize Adam and Aelin, to make them Valerions in name, as by his own confession they already are in blood, and to name Aelin heir to Driftmark. She has refused him, and she has refused him for a reason that curdles in the telling, because to raise up one man's baseborn sons would invite the realm to ask aloud about the parentage of her own. So the old lord says the thing no one at her court has dared to say. Her son Joffrey, he reminds her, is a bastard. Lucerys, whom he himself accepted as his heir, was a bastard. Jacaerys, he says, lived and died a bastard. Say aloud, he demands, the reason your children deserve what mine are denied. She has no answer. There is no answer. And in that silence, the alliance that carried her to the Iron Throne cracks straight down the middle. As we saw, in Fire and Blood, this same petition ends the other way, and it matters. There Corlys makes his plea, and the Queen grants it, making Adam a Valerian and heir to Driftmark. Though whose seed the boys truly carried, the old lord's or his own late son Laenor's, the chroniclers never did agree. The show has flipped only her answer, from yes to no. Remember that. It has planted a wound the book heals here, so that it may reopen the same wound later, in a far crueler place. Then the second mask comes off. As a mercy, a rare, exhausted mercy, Rhaenyra decides to spare the captured Daeron, to send the boy she believes is Alicent's gentlest son to the wall rather than the block. And she permits Alicent to look upon him one final time. Alicent needs only a glance. This is not her son. A mother knows. Under her gaze, the boy breaks and tells the truth. He is no prince at all. Lord Ormund Hightower bleached his hair pale, dressed him in a prince's finery, and forbade him to speak, threatening his mother's life to keep him silent. The hostage is worthless. The prince they believed they held was never in their hands at all. And if the real Daeron is not here, then where in all the realm is Ormund's army? The answer arrives on the boots of a single soot-covered man, an escaped dragon keeper who has run all the way from Tumbleton. Ormund's host, he says, never marched home. It never disbanded. It fell upon Tumbleton, the last town before the capital, and took it. And now it holds the town's women and children as living shields, daring the queen to do her worst. The real Daeron is there, with his dragon Tessarion, and Tessarion has already turned men to ash. Rhaenyra's every instinct is to answer fire with fire, to mount the sky and burn Tumbleton to its foundations. But she cannot. To burn Ormund's army, she would have to burn her own subjects along with it. Checkmated by her own conscience, she does the only thing left to her. She orders every Hightower banner in the Red Keep torn down and thrown upon the flames. And the episode leaves her there, green cloth blackening behind her, her eyes rimmed red, a queen learning that the crown she bled for cannot be worn clean. It is a superb cliffhanger. It is also an invention. And to understand what the show has done, you must know what truly waited at Tumbleton, because in Fire and Blood there is no hostage siege, there is a battlefield, and it is about to become a graveyard for dragons. We have spoken already of the two betrayers, Hugh Hammer upon Vermithor, Ulf White upon Silverwing, sent to defend Tumbleton and turning their dragons upon the town instead. What follows is the reckoning. Sir Adam Velaryon, that same Adam whose loyalty the Queen has already come to doubt, though he has done nothing to earn her mistrust, flees King's Landing on Seasmoke and rides for Tumbleton at the head of a host of rivermen, determined, as the maester Gildane tells it, to prove that not all bastards need be turncloaks. He falls upon the sleeping green camp at dawn, and in the ruin of that single morning, nearly everything burns. Hugh Hammer, running for his dragon, is cut down before ever he reaches it. Slain by Sir John Roxton with the Valyrian steel blade Orphan Maker. Ulf White, too deep in his cups to fight, sleeps through the whole battle and dies the next morning by a subtler weapon. Sir Hobart Hightower brings him poisoned arbor gold, and when Ulf grows wary of the cup, Hobart drinks it down himself to prove it safe. And so the two of them die together. Adam Valerian and Sea Smoke fall from the sky. Vermithor, riderless and maddened, dies of its wounds. Tessarion, the Blue Queen, Daeron's own dragon, left riderless with a broken wing, cannot rise, and is granted a mercy by a common archer's arrow. Of the 4 dragons that met the dawn over Tumbleton, only Silverwing climbs from the ashes and flies away. And Daeron himself, Daeron the Daring, the gentlest of Alicent's sons, dies here as well. Though how, no chronicler can agree. The maesters give 3 accounts, and his body is never certainly found, which is why, in the years to come, false Daerons will walk the realm wearing his name. The true history refuses to close that door, and so shall we. And here, at last, is why the change matters. The show delays the slaughter and remakes it as a rescue. A mother's stolen children. A queen held prisoner by her own mercy. It is moving television, but it softens the true horror of Tumbleton, which was never that Rhaenyra could not save the town. It was that the town was destroyed by her own weapons, the very dragon seeds she had raised up and knighted. Her own fire turned against the people she was sworn to shield. And that betrayal breaks something inside her. In the book, when word of the betrayers reaches King's Landing, the Queen's trust curdles into paranoia. She brands her 2 remaining loyal dragon seeds, Adam Valerian and the dragon rider girl Nettles, whom the show has cut away entirely. Traitors as well, though neither has raised a hand against her. Corlys, trying only to warn Adam, is arrested for it. And the Valerian fleet, the greatest in all the world, abandons her cause. The alliance that cracked in the marketplace this hour will soon shatter beyond mending. And the queen the chapter calls triumphant will hold her father's throne for barely half a year. Every episode this season, we set the screen aside for a moment, and we open the book on its own terms. Because a good story does not merely tell you what happened. It plants questions. And this hour, quiet as it is, buried more open questions in its foundations than any battle could. So let us walk through the mysteries of Episode 3, one by one, and let the true history answer what the screen only whispers. The first is the prophecy that hangs over Hugh Hammer. In the true history, this blacksmith's bastard, who claimed the great dragon Vermithor, gathers the whisper of a saying to himself, like a cloak, that when the hammer shall fall upon the dragon, a new king shall arise. And Hugh, who is a hammer, who rides a beast, decides the words were written for him. Why be a lord, he asks, when you can be a king? He sets an iron crown upon his head, and it lasts him only days. But here is the payoff the chroniclers could not have known, and the reason we call this dramatic irony rather than true prophecy. The hammer that genuinely falls upon a dragon to raise a new king does not fall at Tumbleton. It falls 150 years later at a ford called the Trident in the year 283 after the conquest, when Robert Baratheon brings his warhammer down upon Rhaegar Targaryen and ends a dynasty. Hugh is the false first draft of that prophecy. Robert is history's true answer. The book does not tell us who first spoke the words to Hugh, and so neither will we. but it lets the saying wait a century and a half for the man it was truly meant to crown. The second mystery the episode plants is a corpse that is not a corpse. Baela flies out searching for enemy dragons and finds, we are told, only the rotting remains of Sunfire, the golden dragon of Aegon II, and the instinct that stirs in her, that where Sunfire lies, the hidden king cannot be far, is, in the book, exactly correct. Because, in the true history, Sunfire is not dead. He is broken, crippled, unable to fly far, hidden away and tended in secret. And beside him, smuggled out of the doomed city before its fall by Larys Strong, lies the burned and broken Aegon II himself. The screen shows you a rumor of death. The history shows you a wounded king and his wounded dragon, waiting. And Sunfire's story is not finished. It is Sunfire, not the cannibal, who hunts down and kills the wild dragon Grey Ghost. It is Sunfire who, at Dragonstone, slays the young dragon Moondancer in the air, and takes his own mortal wounds doing it. Only then, on the 9th day of the 12th moon of the year 130 after the conquest, does the golden dragon finally die. So when Baela stands over what she believes are his bones and senses a king close at hand, the true history leans close and answers. She is nearer the mark than she can know. The third mystery is the throne itself. The season loves to hint that the chair judges the ruler, that iron cuts the unworthy. It is a beautiful idea, and it is not history. The notion that the Iron Throne passes judgment on whoever dares to sit it is old superstition, the kind of tale her enemies were only too glad to spread. But Fire and Blood records no such judgment falling upon Rhaenyra, no throne turning against her. The true root of the legend is far older and far grimmer. It was Maegor I, the Cruel, who was found dead upon the throne, alone and cold, the manner of his death a mystery to this day. And from that single dark morning grew near a century of talk that the seat itself weighs a ruler and finds some wanting. The chronicles do not say the throne rejected Rhaenyra. Her enemies said it. And a story repeated is not a story proven. The fourth is the great song. Daemon speaks of prophecy, of a promise passed down, of a war for the dawn, a song of ice and fire. And here we must be precise, because precision is the whole point of this series. Fire and Blood says nothing of this prophecy in the dance, not for it, not against it. It is silent. That silence is the show's own invention, and it is a fine one. But silence is not refutation. When the book does not speak, we do not put words in its mouth. The pride of old Valyria that demon voices, the arrogance of dragon lords who believe themselves gods, that is true to the bone. The secret song threaded through the bloodline is the screen's edition, and we name it as exactly that. And the last mystery is the one the whole season has been quietly building toward: a young prince and a body no one can find. Prince Daeron the Daring survives the first battle at Tumbleton in the true history and dies at the second. And how he dies, the Meesters cannot agree. Some say Black Trombo felled him with a morning star as he staggered from his burning tent. Some say a nameless man-at-arms cut him down with a sword. And Grand Maester Munkun favors the simplest and cruelest account of all, that the burning tent came down upon him and left nothing to name. His remains were never certainly identified, and in an age that cannot bury its prince, impostors grow like weeds, so that years later, under Aegon III, more than one bold stranger would ride out of the smoke claiming to be Daeron the Daring, returned. The screen turned Daeron into a hostage and a stranger. the history keeps him a mystery to the very end, and hands that mystery down through the generations that follow. So let us do what we do at the end of every one of these. Step out of the story and into the argument it started. Because an hour this bold does not pass quietly, and among those of us who have read the book, the debate has been loud. The first and loudest objection is what many book readers have called the dragon-shaped plot hole. Think it through. If Daemon accepted the surrender of a prince, he accepted the surrender of that prince's dragon. And Targaryen, the Blue Queen, is no small thing to overlook. A rider is bonded to his dragon in blood and fire, and a bonded war dragon does not sit calm and silent while her rider is taken hostage before her eyes. A war-tested dragon rider like Daemon, of all men, should have felt that wrongness in his bones. Some have argued the show simply needed him not to look too closely. Most, in the end, forgive it, because the trick is so satisfying to watch. But it is the seam in the illusion, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The second thread is the one that has drawn the most praise, and it is worth saying plainly. Many viewers watched this hour and saw a second Targaryen queen winning the city of her ancestors and slowly being poisoned by it. And they saw the show doing, carefully and on purpose, what a certain final season once did in a rush. Where that ending asked us to believe a good woman became a tyrant in the space of a single scene, this episode builds the descent brick by patient brick. An empty vault, a hungry city, a coronation no septon will bless. It is a gradual, earned unraveling. And on this point, the book agrees with the show completely. This is exactly how Rhaenyra falls in fire and blood, not in a moment of madness, but by inches. The third beat is the most divided, the banquet of rats. To some, it is populist theater at its finest, a queen shaming the hoarders with the very food her starving people were forced to eat. To others, it plays as performative mercy, a grand gesture where a ruthless act was what the moment truly demanded. Both readings are fair. What is not in dispute is that it is invention. There is no rat banquet in Fire and Blood, but it dramatizes something the book insists upon, that this queen's tragedy is a tragedy of governance, of a city she conquered but could not feed. The fourth thread belongs to the readers. That bleached-hair pretender, a low-born boy dressed up as a lost prince, is a wink to anyone who has followed the deeper books. The trope of the false heir with dyed hair, the pretender the author has played with before and may never resolve on the page. The show reached into that box and pulled out a twist the novels never had. And the fifth is the oldest grievance of all, the erasure of Nettles. By cutting her entirely, the show loses the theme that dragons do not care whose blood you carry, and it loses Rhaenyra's darkest hour, the paranoid order to have a loyal girl put to death. In the book, that same wave of paranoia, branding her own loyal Dragonseeds traitors, is what costs her the Sea Snake and the Valyrian fleet, when Corlys is arrested for warning the loyal Adam to flee. On screen, that whole wound will have to bleed some other way. So here is our honest verdict. This is an acclaimed, deliberately small hour, and it nails the book's true thesis. A queen destroyed not by fate, not by prophecy, not by a throne that rejects her, but by an empty vault, a hungry city, and her own hardening pride. That is the half-year Queen of Fire and Blood, and the show honors her. But it invents an entire alternate Tumbleton to do it. So let us correct, one last time, the thing it flatly rewrites. In the book, Ormund Hightower does not surrender, and he does not live. He dies at the First Battle of Tumbleton, and the town does not fall to a clever hostage-taking. It burns by the treachery of Rhaenyra's own dragons, the 2 riders she sent to save it. That betrayal, the treasons of Tumbleton, a blacksmith's bastard who crowns himself in black iron, a prophecy that would not truly come to pass for another 150 years. And the night nearly every dragon in that field dies. That is the story waiting for us, just ahead. So, tell us in the comments. Was the decoy prince a clever twist, or a cheat the writers had to cover with a plot hole? We read the argument. We go page versus screen every single week. Subscribe and ride with us into the fire.